Hey everybody, and we're live, and we are on the very vibrant Wellington Street in Verdun, which is not too far from where I live, and I actually really like this street. And they've closed it off for the summer as a purely pedestrian street, so you'll notice that I've filmed here before on the other side of Wellington, and I am currently in front of the Our Lady of the Seven Pains Church. No, I swear I'm not kidding. Our Lady of the Seven Pains. And yeah, so we're here, and we're going to be talking a little bit. Welcome to Not Technically Perfect. And tonight we're going to be talking about something not technically legal. Well, we'll talk about how it is and isn't, and all the logistics around that. So I'm just giving people a couple of seconds because I know Facebook and YouTube take a second. So here we go. Let's see if anyone jumps on. All right. So there's a lot of activity, and this is actually I'm used to a lot of activity. I used to. I mentioned before that I used to teach at that. Those of you who know me, I was a trainer at Apple, and that was a fairly busy store. So it was kind of nice to learn to be able to train in that environment because it gets you used to a lot of stuff going on around you. All right, so let's jump in, shall we? All right. So let's start with the phrase, well, I can get music for free, or I can download that. Yep, yeah, you can. However, there's a caveat to that. And some people complain that the music is too expensive, and some people complain that, there's a lot going on around media and software and the cost and the economics of it. And I just wanted to kind of touch on the more human element of it. This is far less about the technical and far more about kind of how it really works. So I'm going to start with music, and this applies to movies as well. When you go out, I mean, it used to be that a music company they would have talent scouts, and they would find a band or artist that they really liked or that they wanted to back, and they would, get that artist. They would give them a contract. They would be obligated to make a certain number of albums, and those would be marketed and put out. And then the artist would receive payment when the album sold, because the record company would put out a lot of the forward capital to make sure that happened, and all the, everything that goes into getting an artist noticed. Well, we're a long way from that time. You no longer have to go and buy a whole CD when all you want is one song. But nonetheless, you still need a whole group of people in order to make a song. Yes, there's obviously the artist, but there's also the sound director. There's the people who manage the artist and the artist's social media or whatnot. And even if the band, artist or band manages that themselves, there's still a lot of work that gets put into that. So how do these people get paid? Well, usually they get paid by when the song sells or when it's licensed out. Like when you hear a song in an advertisement, it's usually licensed, which means that they have to pay a certain amount for every time that song is played. So they know how often the ad runs, they have to pay out a certain amount, or they can sometimes buy the rights to a song. Whoever owns the rights owns the song, and they can do whatever they want with it. More often than not, the record companies would own the rights to the songs, and the artists could use it all they want because they are the creators, but the record companies could decide who gets to license it and who doesn't. And let's be honest, chasing down rights on a song is pretty tricky. All right. Oh, and I got some people. Yeah, I got some people rocking out. All right, cool. So, can I get it for free? Sure. There's lots of ways to get songs for free and whatnot. But honestly, it's like going into a shop and saying, hey, I'd like that pack of bubble gum, and you take it. Is it stealing? Yes. Yes, it is. Why? Because you're not giving back anything for something that was for something that you're getting. And the artists get paid on that value. So if somebody's not paying that value, the artist's not getting paid. Now, wait. Before you, I get it. Hey, wait, I'm not responsible for it. No. The invention of LimeWire and stuff like that actually didn't do that bad for the record industry. The copying of single songs didn't really, it hurt a bit, but it hurt the record companies more than it hurt the artists, because the royalties on the albums were so low that, quite frankly, the artists didn't care as much as the record companies did, and that's why they were the ones who chased down people who were, and they had to be prolific. So we're talking the middlemen, not generally the end user. They don't usually care about one person copying music because it's not worth the cost to chase them. The same goes for Hollywood. When you see the credits at the end of the movie, just think about how many people it took to make that a reality. Not just the actors, the director, and all of this, but all the special effects people and the graphic designers and the set people, the costume people, all of them, all of them. The studio put the money up front to make the film, or investors put up the money up front to make the film. They want their money back. So when that film is copied, they make less, like a lot less. Now, again, this is mostly middlemen who do it, across the board and copy relentlessly. But it's not that it doesn't hurt. That being said, Walmart has hurt the record industry and the movie industry a lot more by undercutting wholesale prices. But that's a discussion for another day. And if you guys are interested, let me know in the comments or by email, which I will post at the end of this video, and we can delve more into that. But today we'll talk about the business of digital products. So we need to make sure that the artists get paid. Now, here's the interesting part. The models have changed. It used to be that you had to go out and buy a physical CD or cassette if you're, around my age. So we used to have to go out and buy cassettes. You can get CDs, you can get, or goodness help you, mini disc if you were into that phase, no problem, So one of the big innovators to that, more often than not, was Apple. They were not the first, period, but they were one of the biggest to start making deals with artists to make things digitally available. This means that you didn't have the manufacturing costs of CDs, you didn't have a lot of there were still marketing costs, but a lot of the physical costs, warehousing and so on, were reduced drastically, which means that they could offer albums for less, and they started offering individual songs. This was a huge boon, especially for people like me, because I don't care about most of the songs on the albums. I like what I like, and I want a couple of songs from the album. So I didn't have to pay what would have been $16 at the record store. I could pay, or $10 for the whole album online. I could go and pay $2 a song, or $1.29 a song, and get 2 songs. And the artist saw almost as many royalties on that one song as they did on a whole disc when it was back when you had to buy the physical disc. So that's kind of interesting. And movies kind of went the same way. So now you could pay for movies on demand. You don't have to rewind. You don't have to bring them back to Blockbuster. Our infrastructure changed a lot, and it made it very, very interesting. So now we're in a digital age where you can go and you can get a movie and you can buy it and have it as part of your account. You don't have to have the physical disc in your house. So less to move around, less to worry about dusting. That gets kind of interesting. The other thing that's interesting about all of this is that we started getting into another model. Netflix was one of the biggest ones. It was definitely the best known, where instead of, even when they had physical discs, you would pay a flat fee to be a member. They would pay, based on the total amount that they collected for flat fee, they were able to pay out licenses for the different content and distribute for a one-time monthly fee, which got very interesting. So now Netflix, everybody knows, no rewinding, no mailing of discs. You pay your fee and you legally get your content. Why? Because they can collect a large pool. If they have 1 million users at $10 a piece, that's $1 million. That's $10 million a month. Okay, let's knock a bit of that off for the servers. Let's go crazy and knock off, even 1 million. It's 9 million that they still have to distribute legally among the rights owners and make sure that everybody gets their due, which is kind of cool. So it means that production can keep moving and artists can still get their pay. Apple Music, Spotify, subscription services like this, where you pay for the subscription, allow you to get the music legally and make sure that the artists you love get paid so they can keep doing what they love to do. Is it a perfect model? It's not perfect, but it's certainly better than making sure that your artists can't afford to eat and therefore can't afford to make the music that they love to make, and you don't get to enjoy it. So that's just one way. But we also have the software side of things. Now, I'm going to mention games. Yes, I love video games, and I'm a video gamer. And there are two very big schools of gaming, and there are two major types of games, and there are games that fall in between. But largely, it's two extremes. You have your indies, who are small development studios. They take high risk. They develop this stuff. Um, at their own cost, on their own dime, and sometimes they get investment and whatnot. But they create a product and then put it out there. Sometimes they'll be picked up by a publisher, and they're subject to the publisher's fees and whatnot. But a lot of indie titles don't really make it big, just like a lot of books don't make it big. The New York Times bestseller list doesn't roll over a whole lot. There are a few books that are really successful, and a lot of books that you see at Chapters Indigo that are not. Many of them, well over 70% of those books never sell more than 1,000 copies. And that's unfortunate, but it's the truth. Indies are tricky to get noticed, but indies have one thing that the big titles, so it's like the independent films. They have the freedom to play a little more. They have the freedom to go out and try new things, to innovate, to definitely try new formats and new ways of thinking and working, and they can create something that you may never have seen before, that that big budget wouldn't take a risk on because they can't be guaranteed their return. So new intellectual property or new franchises, new characters, you'll see a lot of that coming out of indie. Especially when video games are concerned, you'll get a lot of kind of really rogue tryout stuff or mechanics, and they'll tend to build off other stuff they've seen, but some are really good, some not so much. It's very much like indie films. It depends on whether it appeals to you. It's highly subjective. The big budget stuff, much like Hollywood big budget, they tend to want to minimize risk. They tend to want to make what they know will sell. Of course they do. It's risky because the investment requires huge teams, really big teams. And for those of you who want to see kind of what's up, this happens to be a really good time. If you go to Google and look up E3, E and number 3, E3 2021, E3, the Electronic Entertainment Expo, is going on right now. It's been going on since, I think, Thursday. And this is the annual big shindig for all the video game companies to announce what they're coming up with over the next year. This is where we see huge and major innovations, big titles coming out, and small indie developers who are trying to get their name out there, who are trying to show off something completely different. You'll get a lot of game reviews. There's a lot of hype around video games at the moment, and you'll tend to see a lot of sales happen right after E3, which is kind of cool if you're into video games. So the AAA titles, just like Hollywood, have these huge teams, a lot of marketing behind them. They've got a lot. They have acting talent. Even the video games have acting talent, whether it's motion capture or voice work, or there are some very big names in video game voices. So it's kind of cool to know that. And this is a huge thing. It's a really big deal. But because the investment can be, and I am not even close to kidding, in the tens of millions of dollars, they have to guarantee a certain amount of sales, which is why the risk tends to be a little lower. And taking a chance on a new intellectual property or a new franchise is a big risk. Tens of millions goes really, it goes really badly. A case of a really miserable one, a really miserable fail on this one is if you look up Disney Infinity. The end product was okay. I know, I had it, I tried it. It wasn't bad, but for the amount of money spent, for the amount of money they charged for it, I expected a more complete and compelling experience. So, last part. The games are expensive to make. There's 3 major models, actually there's 4 major models. There's one where you can go and buy, and now this applies to software as well, by the way. Anything I'm saying applies to software. You can buy the software outright. The problem is once you buy it outright, it can be copied. And generally, the companies have started frowning upon making these things available as one-time purchase. Why? Because people copy it, and it's really, really hard to copy protect. There used to be all kinds of stuff in the 90s. Enter the third line, fourth word of this page of the game manual. Yeah, but that stuff can be posted online, so they were circumvented easily, and honestly, it just made the whole experience really crappy. So it's really hard to copy protect this stuff. So there's the software as a service model or subscription. You want to play World of Warcraft, you can download it, you can buy it and you can download it, and you can, we'll give you a month free, but after that we expect you to pay per month. It helps pay the continuing development costs because World of Warcraft is a game that keeps expanding, among a lot of others. So those are the big ones. Like the music industry, they followed there. You can buy it outright or you can pay a monthly. There's freemium. We'll give you the game. You can download it for free. You can play it for free. But you're going to have to put up with ads. Or you're going to get to a point in the game where you can, if you work really hard, get past that particular part. But if you pay us a nominal fee, you can get this armor, sword, whatever you want, that gets you past. Or, you can get this premium thing, and you pay them a few bucks, and you get this premium thing, and you can pass the challenge easily, and then you can play for a little while longer, and then they'll hit you again with one of these barriers. It's not a bad model. You get to try it out, and if you really like it, it's worth putting in a little bit of money to the developers to encourage them. Last but not least, there is the free-to-play model. Free-to-play means you can download it and you can play it. I'm a big fan of Warframe, which is a free-to-play, and the way Warframe makes their money is they go, you can download it, you can play it, and you never have to spend a cent if you don't want to. But if you want to, you can circumvent a lot of the grind by buying something outright. You can buy premium currency. Some games it's diamonds, whatever. Them it's platinum. And you can buy things in-game. Do they give you a tactical advantage? Not any more than somebody who would have done the work in-game to grind it out, to do the work in-game and get it that way. But you can get it sooner. And there are certain barriers so that you can't just, jump all the way to the front of the line. It'll give you certain advantages. So there are certain weapons, for example, hard to acquire. Great, you can buy them. But you don't have to. And you'll never hit a challenge where it's like you cannot pass this without spending. So just so you know. I hope this kind of gives you a little overview as to kind of maybe a little bit as why things are. And I wanted to talk about more the industry today and kind of why things are and why this idea of, well, I can download that or I can get that free. Yeah, you can. And, if one person does it, it doesn't hurt, but it kind of sets a bad precedent. It's what drove the prices of software up so high. It's why Photoshop was, a few $100s before they went completely subscription-based, because you cannot get Photoshop at this point without a subscription. That's the way they control their product. Guys, hit me up in the comments. I'm going to put up my email if you guys want to hit me up with something, with questions or comments there. And I do read the comments. I'm definitely down with all that. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 6:45 when we go live at 6:45 for Not Technically Perfect. And I'll see you guys then. Thanks so much. Have yourselves